Welcome to today's episode. We are going to have a little chit chat about how many teams a Scrum Master can or should have, because there's a difference between can and should. What is goodest is not necessarily what management wants because they want to save money. That may not be what's best for the organization, for the team, or for the Scrum Master. And yes, in my channel, goodest is an actual word. All right, welcome back. I actually got a call recently from a recruiter who wanted me to take a look at a job. Now, I'm a senior coach. I've been coaching now for 10 years full-time. I have coached over 100 Scrum Masters. I have worked in so many amazing corporations. I'm telling you, I've been around. My resume looks like Santa's list. I have to constantly cut stuff down, and it's still 5 pages. These gray beard, this right here, this is proof that I'm as old as a hill and twice as dusty. I've been around. I've been to a lot of companies, and I worked as a Scrum Master in a lot of companies. And this job rec actually surprised me. I was a little taken aback, shall we say. And I think you will be too. So we're going to go nice and slowly here, but all of y'all Scrum Masters, product owners, and executives, you better pay attention. Please pay attention. This is very important. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at this actual job description. We're going to talk about what this thing means. And we're going to take a look at what scrum.org says, because I looked it up and say, hey, what do you guys recommend? All right. And then we're going to have a, are you friggin' kidding me moment at the end. Okay. So here's the job rec that I saw. So the Scrum Master is responsible for guiding the development of an agile team, effective delivery unit, sustainable cadence. Sustainable cadence. Well, we all know that, right? We all talk about how the team has to have a sustainable cadence. You're responsible for ensuring the team's process evolves along the organizational guidelines, standards of practice. You got to be able to nurture a self-organizing, high-performing team. High-performing team, ladies and gentlemen. If you know anything about Agile, you know that to get a team to high-performing requires a lot of coaching, an advanced Scrum Master. I have never seen a high-performing team with a junior Scrum Master. It's possible, theoretically. I've just never seen it. And I've coached probably 100 Scrum Masters, 100 teams. Okay? Ain't never seen it. So if you want it to really reach 100%, well, if you really want your team to achieve high-performing levels, you have to have a great Scrum Master who has time to think. We'll talk about that. Facilitate the project team meetings, project road mapping sessions, encourage, support, guide, continuous improvement. All these things seem like standard table fare, right? Excellent communicator, gain respect, blah, 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 blah. Able to resolve conflict, arbitration, negotiation, reasoned discussion, escalation. Identify problems, impediments, dependencies, other team dysfunctions. Facilitate agile activities and meetings, including sprint planning, retrospectives, and sprint reviews. All right, so you expect you to do all those things. Assist the product owner, keeping the backlog groomed. Okay. All right. We got a, that's standard. Product owner needs help from the Scrum Master. Often good Scrum Masters help the product owner to learn how to write effective user stories and great acceptance criteria and make sure that the backlog is clean. That's all true. Okay. Now look down here, though. Do you see this down here? Ability to manage what? The ability to manage 5 teams? Concurrently handle 5 teams. Okay. Capable of customizing Jira and Confluence and ability to operate independently for performance trends and metrics. Oh, so it's a full Scrum Master job, full expectations. There's nothing missing from this. You with me? Absolutely nothing is missing from this. Can a Scrum Master handle 5 teams? Well, let's see what scrum.org says, shall we? Now, look, scrum.org has an article. and a nice little video. Go over and check this out. Scrum.org. How many Scrum teams should you be? What? Oh, how many Scrum? Scrum.org has an article. How many Scrum teams should you be on? Properly written, that would be on how many teams should you be? But since I'm not a grammar Nazi, I'm not going to comment on that. Now, the video is better than the rest of the article. The article kind of upset me. But basically, the coach here goes through a lovely little explanation of how many hours you would have to work to maintain all of those events. And I'm going to save you the chicken scratch, and we're going to do it this way. Okay? So here's what we're looking at. For a Scrum Master with one team, your monthly capacity, right? 4 weeks in a month, at 40 hours a week, you'd have 160 hours. Now, he summed up all of the Scrum events normally, and it would be about 20 hours. And then after the events, you would have 140 hours left over. So it sounds like it's very doable, right? One team would leave you a lot of spare time. But then he added in product backlog refinement. And you might be saying, wait a minute, why wasn't that included in the first sum? Because if you remember your Scrum guide, backlog refinement is not one of the required Scrum events. It is highly recommended. It's an additional one. And so when he did his calculations, being a Scrum trainer, he followed the Scrum guide to a T. Good for him. All right, good thinking. But we also know that the vast majority of teams do perform backlog refinement. So he had to add that in there. So with one team, you would still have about 124 hours remaining capacity to do all those other things. Is that possible? Absolutely. No sweat. So let's look at what happens when you add a team. 2 teams, you have 88 hours left over. Still enough capacity. Okay? You're still good. No worries. 3, you only have 52 hours in a month. So that's 10 hours a week to start doing all those other duties. We're going to get to that in a second. Now you're starting to really get thin. Still doable. But remember, we're not talking about what happens if you have production issues? What if you have system outages? What if you have all sorts of problems come up and the Scrum Master needs to help? You've only got 10 hours a week for all that additional stuff, plus your team meeting, plus your boss's meeting, plus your project meetings, plus your other. That's get really skinny. Now, number 4, if you have 4 teams, you only have 16 hours of spare time per month. That's 4 hours per week. Ain't no way you're going to get all that stuff done with 4 hours to spare every week. Ain't going to happen. So 4 and 5 teams should be out from the very beginning. If you have 5 teams without doing anything other than Scrum events, you're 20 hours in the hole. Now, by the way, he did calculate 4 hours of planning and, like 4 hours retros and stuff. He planned it out to the max for what the Scrum guide allows. So now, let's take a look at this visually. The green one right here, where the mouse is essentially saying that if we were to examine the green column here, is basically saying that the Scrum Master has 160 hours in total per month. Now, you take out those 20 hours for one team, and you can see you're down to 120 something, 124 hours, something like that, available. You get down to 2 teams, and you're down to about 80 hours. Now, you're still looking pretty good. You get down to 3 teams, you only have about 40 something, 50 hours of spare time beyond your meetings. There's a whole lot of duties we're not even contemplating yet. I think the 3 is looking like that's the cutoff point. 4 teams, you only have 10 hours a month additional. And 5, you're in the hole. Now, the only way you could get out of the hole there, the only way out of that trap is if you begin to reduce the length of any of those meetings. So now what you're forced to do is make a really dangerous decision. You're saying, I don't care what the team needs. Now I have to begin to make sacrifices for the capacity of the Scrum Master. All right. The team coach is going to become the constraint and limit the amount of coaching and time and mentoring and support that the team gets just because management wants to save a few bucks and not have an additional Scrum Master. Now, what are those extra things that I'm talking about? Well, pop over and look at the Scrum Guide. If you're not looking at the Scrum Guide frequently, you're probably, well, let's just say you're making some mistakes potentially. You need to be going, I've been doing this now for 15 years. I still go back over and double check. Is my thinking right? Is there anything I forgot? Right? Now, look, there's three main categories. You're serving the team in a whole bunch of ways. You're helping them to learn about self-management, cross-functionality, story slicing, all right, waste reduction concepts, being more efficient, making sure they get the definition of done. There's a ton of stuff in there. Creating high-value increments, removing the impediments. Remember, that was in that job rec. You got to go remove those impediments. Ensuring that all the Scrum events take place and they're positive and productive. Well, if you're in a rush, are you going to be real positive and productive? Scrum Master serves the product owner. You're partially responsible for making sure your product owner has a good backlog, and that the stories are high quality, and that the acceptance criteria are high quality. And you need to be watching and reading that backlog and making sure the team understands what it is, and they can slice it and size it, and that they can predict what they're going to get done and accurately get it done and effectively meet the definition of done. And you have increments every sprint, and you're meeting your sprint goals. There's a whole lot of stuff you got to be doing. Facilitating stakeholder collaboration. Okay, you got to hunt down those sneaky little stakeholders. Sometimes they're kind of slimy and slippery, and you can't get your hands on them, and they're always someplace, but not where you need them. Well, the Scrum Master's got to help hunt those people down, right? That can be difficult. What if you have outages? Who's often responsible for organizing the war room to fix it? The Scrum Master. Who needs to write up afterward what happened? Who needs to do the root cause analysis? The Scrum Master. Who needs to do cross-team coordination? The Scrum Master. Who has to do all the metrics to report to leadership about what's going on? The Scrum Master. Who has to interpret the metrics so that you can help the team to understand how those metrics are a reflection of their behaviors and possibly what they need to change to improve the metrics? You guessed it, the Scrum Master. Okay? And the Scrum Master also serves the organization, as you can see right here. Leading, training, coaching the organization. Planning and advising Scrum implementations. What? Scrum Masters do that? They should be, if they're allowed to do their job. Can you do that with five teams? No way. Removing barriers between stakeholders and Scrum teams. There's a lot going on. And if you go back over here to this, I want you to look at can you even handle the number of meetings? Let's take a look at a normal Scrum cadence. Here is a calendar, in case you didn't recognize it. And since most teams start on a Wednesday and end on a Tuesday, let's see if we can plan what that would look like. So I came out here and I created this board. I'm going to take my little beautiful picture off here. I hope you won't miss me too much. All right. Now, Wednesday. Okay, so Wednesday. Assuming that the teams need to have a couple of hours of planning, you have four teams, back to back to back to back. 4 teams. 2 hours each. Now, if you have 4 teams, that's barely doable, but the Scrum Master doesn't get no stinking lunch. There's no breaks. There's no potty breaks for the poor Scrum Master. He or she has to run to the potty. That's not possible. They're not going to be able to do that. But let's say that you only have 4 teams. Okay? If you have 4 teams, in theory, you might reduce those to 1 hour each. You might be able to squeeze the 5th team in there. Maybe. Okay, but what if one of the teams needs more time for planning? So what that means is now you either have to choose. There's no Scrum Master support. Sorry, can't help you. Got to go. And you're out the door, right? All you see is ass and elbows as he goes out the door. Or he tells the other team, you're going to have to do it without me because these guys need more help. You're always making those decisions. Now, that's okay. Sometimes you need to have that liberty to do that, but that can become really problematic. What if both teams need help? Okay? And remember, I've only got 4 teams on here. I don't have the 5th one. All right? I couldn't fit 5 on this model. I want you to notice that the next day, you notice that little thing here? Look right here. If you'll notice, Team 1 starts in the morning 2 hours, Team 2 goes for 2 hours, Team 3 and 4. They don't even start their planning until the afternoon. So if the previous sprint ended last night, what are they doing between 8 a.m. or 9 a.m. and say 1 p.m.? Are they working on stories? The sprint hasn't even started. They haven't committed to their sprint. So what are they working on? Are they working outside the sprint? Because they could be. Maybe they're completing something from last sprint. Maybe they're, but you can see the point is now 2 of the teams have to wait at least until 1 or 3 p.m., somewhere around there, before they can even start their planning. Now, the next couple of days look pretty light. You just have your stand-ups, but of course, you might end up putting backlog refinements in there. So, all right. Now, you'll notice now you got to figure out where we're going to put our backlog refinements. Now, I'm going to get my little image out of here again. All right. So what you see is you'd have to spread your backlog out, refinement out over the next few days, 2 hours each. A lot of teams like to do 1 hour twice in a sprint, but if you're overloaded, you're not going to have that kind of liberty. You're going to have to do just 1 2-hour meeting and, tough nuggets, team. Again, what's the impediment? What's the constraint? It's Scrum Master hours. Not enough time. Now you get to the end of the sprint, and look over here. I mean, holy free holies, people. This is going to get ugly. So the last day of the sprint, Team 1 needs to do a sprint review, and then they need to do a retro. And let's suppose that's 1 hour each. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 hours, no break again for the Scrum Master. It's a hellish day. And you notice one of the notes over here says Team 1 and 2 have to close their sprint out early in order to perform their sprint review and retro. They can't work to the rest of the day. So they kind of get robbed the whole day. So instead of a 10-day sprint, really they have a 9-day sprint. I don't think anybody in that scrum.org video thought about these impacts, these little things. You had to have been a Scrum Master for a while before you start running into these kinds of little things. Well, what do you do with them? How do you perform your retrospective on a sprint that hasn't completed? Yeah, I guess you just guess what got done. A sprint review, you're just guessing what's going to get done by the end of the day. It can be done, but it starts getting a whole bunch, it kind of wishy-washy, right? Done ain't really done. We're doing our sprint review, talking about what's probably going to close, maybe. What do I carry to the next sprint? Why did we do that? Do we need to add any new stories before we go to sprint planning? Those are all the questions that are there. And you'll notice note number 2, what if corporate wants you to do a demo? Remember, sprint review is not a demo. Demo is not one of the required Scrum meetings. Now, you can do a sprint review and demo, but when push comes to shove and you don't have enough time, which one are you going to get rid of? You're going to cancel sprint review and just do demos? Well, then how does sprint review get done exactly? Are you really doing Scrum if you start canceling meetings and rewriting the book of Scrum? Is that really Scrum? So let's suppose now you're saying we can do sprint review, but we can't do demo. Corporate's not going to like that. So now corporate starts saying, because we don't want to pay for Scrum Masters and we have constraint on Scrum Master time, just stop doing sprint review, do the demo, and, in your spare time, you can close out the sprint and figure everything out. I mean, come on. You're institutionalizing Scrum, but we do Scrum, but we don't do reviews. We do Scrum, but our Scrum Masters are overloaded. We have a sustainable pace, but not for the Scrum Master. And what if a team was having trouble and they actually needed more time for their retrospective? Sorry, guys, I can't be here to lead you through that. I'm a team coach, but more in reality, I'm just a glorified admin. I facilitate meetings. I'm an MC. I can't teach you how to slice, can't teach you how to, cross coordinate, collaborate. I don't have time for that. All I do is run meetings, make sure you guys are in the meetings because that's what they want. Let me stop all the jibber jabber. And let's come back to conclusions here. No, a Scrum Master can't have 5 teams. No, not in a million years. Cannot do it. Should not do it. Don't even think about it. Let me give you a simple guideline. This is the Curtis rules to Scrum. Brand new Scrum Master should have 1 team and 1 team only. And you set a growth plan for that individual to make sure that he or she can support 1 team and accomplish all the things that you want to do. That may take a year for them to learn. Then a mid-level Scrum Master 2 or 3, can handle 2 teams. That's it, 2. An advanced Scrum Master can handle 3 teams. But then you begin to lose some of the value of your senior Scrum Master. Okay? Remember the Scrum Master doing the guiding, the coaching, the mentoring across the organization? If 80% of their time is being spent on the 3 teams, it leaves very little for that other type of stuff. So what do they end up doing? Hiring another coach. They bring in a coach because they didn't want to get another Scrum Master. Why don't you upskill your Scrum Masters, give them a little bit more time, and allow them to do the job that they're supposed to do? How's that for an idea? You like it? I think we ought to tell them. All right. I hope that was productive. Thank you very much. Don't fall for it. $65 an hour ain't worth what they want you to do. They will run you into the ground. They will wear you out. They will make you cry. Don't do it. I don't even apply to a job. If they say they're going to give you 5 teams, I go, yeah, no, 9, yeah. All right. Have a great day. Bye.